guys, something interesting's actually come out today. You've got Kotaku. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Kotaku anyway, but I thought they got a pretty interesting article where they basically just got one of their dudes just grilling Aaron Greenburg, the Xbox guy. Yeah, they basically just they had done an interview with him. The whole transcript is on Kotaku. If you want to give him a hit, I'll share the link so you can read it. But I'm not going to go through the whole lot. But there's some interesting bits in there. They ask him about the studios and the games they're pumping out. Like specifically Bleeding Edge and Grounded coming from Ninja Theory and Obsidian. Basically, just he's asking him some nice questions because obviously a lot of people are a bit like, why are they doing Bleeding Edge and Grounded? You know, because these aren't the sort of games you want to see coming out of these studios. But he basically covers his tracks and says, they're different parts of the team working on these games, or they were working on it before we acquired the studios and stuff like that. But either way, they go through and this is the bit that I love because Kotaku basically I'll read what Kotaku ask him. They basically say, look, Game Pass has become such a focus for Xbox now. Is this because you can't compete with marquee first-party titles like last week's Death Stranding, and so offer breadth instead? And like this guy is literally just tap dancing around the question. Like his answer is, we try to do both. I'd say for us, Gears 5 was a marquee title, the biggest Gears we've ever made. It ended up with a Metascore of 86, blah 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 blah. He basically just goes on and then he mentions what Rare's doing with Everwild and Don't Nod working on Tell Me Why and stuff like that. He says that those sort of games are perfect for the Xbox, but like that to me is a non-answer. Like they've literally said, are you doing Game Pass because you cannot compete with marquee first-party titles? He mentions one, which is Gears 5, and then dances around the question for a little bit, and then starts talking about Everwild and Tell Me Why, which for all we know aren't going to be AAA marquee titles. Don't get me wrong, Don't Nod make good games, and Tell Me Why looks pretty interesting, but you can't put something like Life is Strange on the same tier list as like God of War or Death Stranding. They're like two different styles of games. They're two different levels. So, to me, he's just danced around the question. And, straight after that, he jumps in with, we're listening to our fans. We know they want more games. They want more content from our first party studios. This is why we've grown our studios. We have 15 teams, blah, 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 blah. It's all lip service. But he hasn't answered the question. He's danced around it. It's like a bloody politician or something. But it makes me laugh. A couple of the other things they asked was, they said that Xbox was big on game of service at the start of the generation, but Xbox has rode back on it a bit, and players are sick of that model, especially putting it into games that don't fit it. And Greenberg's like laughing about it, and this is the thing. One of their biggest exclusives was Sea of Thieves, which is obviously garbage, and that wasn't that long ago, but they're still supporting it at XO19, and Kotaku just go, bang, we don't like games of service, players are sick of games of service. But he can't bury Sea of Thieves, so he's like, yeah, I think the whole industry's on like a learning curve there with games and service. I think it's great that Rare wanted to create Sea of Thieves and do something with the games and service idea, blah blah blah. Again, it's just lip service. Like, he can't bury Sea of Thieves, so he has to sort of try and stick up for it without sounding like he's sticking up for games of service. But it just cracks me up, and then he straight away goes to the Outer Worlds and says like, yeah, no, we can still do single player games just like Obsidian did with the Outer Worlds. It's just, it's a really good interview because I just feel like they're grilling him and he's just answering like a politician. There's no real answers here, it's all lip service. But the only other thing, I mean, it's all interesting, it's worth a read even if it is Kotaku, but one of the parts that I really found good was Kotaku basically say to him that Sony are teasing aspects of PS5. Is there anything that you see that worries you? And he's like, no, not really. We're more customer obsessed than competitor obsessed. We think Sony has built a great business and they have a strong brand and a strong presence, and we've got a lot of admiration for what they've done. I kind of like it when these guys like beat each other up and stuff. But mate, this is competition. Like, this is the same company that did the how to trade games on a PlayStation videos and just spanked you down. I think sometimes you've got to get a bit of a spine, you know. I don't mind when these developers are like on Twitter saying like congratulations PlayStation for Uncharted 4's release and stuff like that. That's all cool, but sometimes, man, you got to get your boxing gloves on and throw some punches, you know. You know, this is so they grill him about that. You know, are you worried about PlayStation 5? And bang, you just go straight into talking about xCloud, and he starts talking about how they've got some more Japanese games in Game Pass, and it's of course it's xCloud and Game Pass. We're talking about competition, mate. What games have you got? But you know, have a look at it. Have a look at it. I'm just rolling on now. They talk about Scalebound and game cancellations and some other bits and pieces. It's worth a read. Like I said, I'll chuck it in the description. But that's all I've really got to say about it.